This is Omar Nashashibi from Washington, D.C. with an update on the impact of the Russian actions recently on United States trade policy. Despite pushback from the Biden administration, the U.S. Congress is considering suspending permanent normal trade relations status for Russia in an effort to also suspend them from the World Trade Organization, which is currently made up of 164 member nations. Legislation to effectively end trade with Russia and Belarus has bipartisan support on Capitol Hill and would ban the little oil the U.S. imports from Russia while authorizing the White House to impose tariffs on Russian-made goods. This is in addition to roughly the $13 billion in direct financial support to Ukraine the United States Congress is expected to send. Were Russia be denied access to the WTO, tariffs on its goods would go into effect almost immediately and further isolate Moscow. Global prices for some products and transportation would likely increase if Washington were to take those steps to literally shut Moscow out of the global economy. But Putin has united Republicans and Democrats here in Washington in a way few people have in recent years. Were the Congress to move forward, the trade laws would effectively treat Russia like North Korea or Cuba, or the U.S. could alternatively choose to target specific goods and potentially impose tariffs on all of those instead of across the board. We have already seen this action taken in Canada, which revoked most favored nation status and is applying a 35% tariff rate on virtually all imports from Russia. Russia and Belarus will join North Korea as the only countries whose imports into Canada are subject to that generative tariff rate of 35%. While the media is focusing much of their attention on prices at the pump, and rightfully so, manufacturers and distributors should also expect other short-term cost increases. Although the United States is not reliant on Russian oil, much of Europe and Asia are, and equally as important, the large shipping vessels moving goods around the world rely on it as well. Therefore, you could potentially see increased costs on those shipping rates in the coming weeks and months. Reducing the availability of Russian petroleum and oil products in the market will inevitably increase already sky-high shipping rates. In addition, the war is causing air and ocean freight traffic to reroute in some places, causing additional delays and warehouse congestion. The plastics industry should also expect an increase in prices. By some projections, plastics are projected to be the largest source of new demand for oil over the coming decades, with BP expecting plastics to represent 95% of the new net growth demand for oil between 2020 and 2040. Raw materials and rare earth minerals are another area of concern in both Russia and Ukraine, which are significant sources of aluminum, pig iron, and iron ore used to make steel, titanium for planes, and stainless steel bars, among other goods. Russia and Ukraine account for more than 60% of the U.S. pig iron supply used by American steel makers to produce steel needed for countless of applications here in the country. While the steel prices have started to soften a bit recently in the U.S. and globally, the two countries account collectively for 11% of global steel exports, which could send prices back up again, especially when combined with the pig iron export challenges. One of the world's largest manufacturers of low-carbon aluminum is based in Russia, jeopardizing that metal markets at a time when aluminum has reached over $4,000 a metric ton, nearly double the price a year ago, well now exceeding levels that were previously seeing highs in 2008. The Biden administration is trying to take a calculated approach and coordinate responses to Russia with trade allies to minimize disruptions here at home. However, members of Congress from both parties are increasingly putting pressure on the White House to go further and may act on their own if they do not see the president go further. Members of Congress also continue to urge the Biden administration to take a harsher approach towards trade with China at a time when the President Biden is trying to de-escalate global tensions and, to the extent he can, use Beijing to put additional pressure on Moscow. Rumors from Washington, D.C. are that the White House is holding off for now on moving forward with additional Section 301 tariffs on imports from China, and the Commerce Department is delaying a decision on applying duties to solar tariffs. What we're hearing now, manufacturers and distributors should examine their supply chains, prepare for continued material and transportation disruptions, and expect some short-term price increases. Any companies exporting any goods at all to Russia or Belarus should immediately consult the list of items banned for exports that you can find at the U.S. Department of Commerce. There's a lot of uncertainty, obviously, in this space. While the United States does not have a large exposure to direct finished goods coming in from Russia, there are a number of items that are used in inputs such as critical and rare earth elements and minerals, in addition to some other metals that are certainly used, and we should take a closer look at those. We will continue to keep you posted on how the effects in Ukraine are going and what the impact on trade policy will be here in Washington, D.C.